Now, almost 3 years since its independence, an international forum for South Sudan hosted in Washington by the U.S. government highlighted some progress the new country has made, but also noted challenges to be addressed. And joining us now is VOA's Scott Stearns from the State Department with more on Tuesday's forum. Thanks for joining us, Scott.
Sure thing, Ndimyake.
So maybe you can just tell us about the forum that was held yesterday. What was its objectives and what came out of it?
It was an opportunity for officials from international donor agencies, along with U.S. diplomats, officials from the European Union, Norway, and the United Kingdom, to hear firsthand from officials of South Sudan what happened Friday, those significant talks between President Kiir and President Bashir in Juba, on which there was some progress on the outstanding issues between Sudan and South Sudan, notably border security and the status of civilians. So that was an important update. But in terms of the structure of this conversation, it was meant to address what happens now that oil, the export of oil from South Sudan has returned. As you know, the economy of South Sudan is almost entirely dependent on oil exports. And when South Sudan made the decision last year to stop those exports through Sudan because of a dispute over how the revenue of those exports would be shared, it was a serious impact on the economy of South Sudan. And a lot of these donors essentially helped out the government in Juba to get through that crisis. Now that the flow of oil has returned, they're equally interested in making sure that the government of South Sudan spends that new revenue wisely.
And what is the at least planned agenda going forward? How involved will some of these international donors be in that process?
It was certainly a discussion of the need for the officials of the government in Juba to spend that revenue to help to try to diversify some of the economy of South Sudan, to be less reliant on oil exports, particularly to encourage some outside private sector investments in agriculture, but also to establish a public accountability in the young new government and the provision of social services, an inclusive political governance system that has been one of the issues that the donors and the diplomats were discussing, as well as the need for the government in Juba to quickly conclude its new agreement on support from the International Monetary Fund.
Now, I also understand going forward that the international donors are hoping to help Sudan actually host some kind of a conference to draw investors.
Correct. Yeah, they agreed at the forum here at the State Department to help organize an international investor conference in Juba sometime later this year.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Scott Stearns, joining us from the State Department.